Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. Drinking in a manner, situation, amount, or frequency that could cause harm to the person who drinks or to those around them is a common definition of alcohol misuse, a phenomenon that is posing risks to our population, both young and old. Mrs. Denise Bingham, Senior Director, Prevention, Public Education and Awareness Services Section at the National Council on Drug Abuse, is our guest today, and she will be diving into alcohol misuse and its risks. Welcome to the program, Mrs. Bingham.
Thank you for having me, Theo.
All right, let's jump right into getting some facts. Now, there's a picture in my mind. It's a very Jamaican picture. Everywhere, from morning until evening, you can imagine somebody with a little cup in their hand.
Yes.
And some bright yellow or orange or some kind of liquid in it, and we know it's alcohol.
Yes.
From first thing in the morning to first thing in the evening. So alcohol use is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. But how prevalent is alcohol misuse in Jamaica?
Well, let me give you some information from our recent drug prevalence survey that was done in 2023. So I'll give you a little bit of context regarding alcohol. So there was 77.4% of the population that said, yes, I have had alcohol at some point in my life.
Okay.
While we had 46% saying, I am currently using alcohol. So we're basically at 50% of Jamaica saying, yeah, man, I'm drinking.
Right.
Yes. Now, in terms of misuse, we had harmful alcohol use at 16% of our population saying they're engaging in that kind of behavior. And we did a survey as well in 2016, and we've seen a 4% increase in alcohol use as well.
We're trending up in use.
Yes.
Are we trending up in misuse? Misuse
is a little bit different because sometimes when you ask these survey questions, persons are not necessarily, it's a bit particular in how they answer sometimes. Right. So you may not necessarily get the truth or the real picture. Right. But for the most part, what we have found are persons who require specialized care when we did what we call our alcohol use disorder identification test, they call it the audit test. They identify 6% needed specialized care because they're dependent on alcohol. So therefore, those are the persons who need to be referred to specialized care in facilities that we have, like the Addiction Treatment Services Unit up by the University Hospital, or like Patricia House, which is a rehab center in Linstead, or like a Teen Challenge that is in Ocho Rios. So that part of the population actually requires that specialized care where they need to be out of their current situation or living situation or community or environment and be put in a specialized environment to help them with their dependency.
Got it. And, someone might be listening here and we're thinking, okay, I don't need specialized care, but maybe there's a sort of dependence, maybe emotional dependence, a stress reaction. What are some of the biggest health and social risks that we're looking at with misuse?
Well, for health, alcohol misuse is one of the 4 major risks for NCDs, non-communicable diseases. So when we talk about cancers, when we talk about cardiovascular diseases, respiratory diseases, cancers of the throat, mouth, the liver, cirrhosis of the liver.
It's interesting that cirrhosis of the liver came so low down on the list.
Well, I didn't do it in order, but
I know. But what I'm thinking is usually people think, liver problems, but you've listed a laundry list of challenges.
Yes. So it's not just persons may zone into liver, maybe they heard, their uncle who used to drink too much and him liver and all that, they give him problems. But you have to recognize that alcohol affects many different areas of the body, and these are vital organs we're talking about.
Right.
So we're talking about for adolescents, drinking alcohol from early can change how the brain develops. And that's really for all drugs. I don't want to say alcohol and the person say, so everybody else is fine then. But no, for all substances, once young persons are exposed at an early age, it disrupts that development or that part of the brain that speaks to them developing what we call problem-solving skills, they call it executive functions, reasonability, analytical skills. So sometimes a person may say, but maybe this is why we're having some of these issues that we see in society now. Because some of these persons who we say no have been drinking from their in the teenage years. And so this probably has been something that has possibly impacted them.
Wow. So you definitely jumped into the other question I had in some of the impacts that we see in domestic environments.
Absolutely.
Road.
Absolutely.
And I like your answer. It's not just that I am under alcohol right now, that might cause an impact, but the use of it for a lifetime.
Yes, yes, because you can become dependent on alcohol. And you know, research has shown that earlier you start, that actually promotes the longer you may become dependent on the substance and going into addiction and require that specialized care that we spoke about earlier.
Right.
So a lot of persons, they may know of some of the health risks and they're like, oh, well, maybe, you know, that may not be something that happens to me. But then most certainly the social implications too that you had highlighted, and let me go a little bit into that now, in terms of the intimate partner situations where, you know, substances are involved, and usually particularly alcohol, domestic violence, even in the homes with the children. It's not just like the partners necessarily are the ones impacted, but also the children, the entire family. There's a breakdown that is seen. We talk about like our accidents on the road fatalities, injuries, the burden on the healthcare system because of this misuse of alcohol. I'm sure we've heard of some, you know, story in the headlines about, you know, some party taking place and there was some, you know, serious road fatality. You know, many persons have some story or the other over the years about some kind of situation like that. You know, so I mean, there are many factors to, you know, take into consideration when it comes down to alcohol misuse, because it's widespread. It's not just the health risk, but it's also the societal risk. You know, also with work too, the low productivity at work, because you go in, you can't function, you need alcohol to carry through because now you're functioning with it, you are not normal with it, and if it's signs like that, that's definitely a red flag. You need to reach out for help.
Red flag.
Yes.
Okay. Now I want some more data from you, from your studies, but we're going to take a break right now and come right back. So please stay with us.
Know your numbers and control the keys to a healthier heart. Know the numbers for your blood pressure, cholesterol level, blood glucose level, and your weight and body mass index. Find out the risks they represent and what you need to do to stay healthy. Talk to your doctor and start making healthy lifestyle choices to prevent a heart attack or stroke.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. We're discussing alcohol misuse and, more importantly, the NCDA's efforts to combat the issue. Still with us is Mrs. Denise Bingham, Senior Director, Prevention, Public Education and Awareness Services Section at the National Council on Drug Abuse. Lady Bingham, let's jump back into some stats.
Yes.
Right? What demographic, you know, age, socioeconomic status, gender, what demographic do you find more alcohol misuse being prevalent? Sorry, let me fix that. But you get what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. So we have found from our survey that the age group from 25 to 35, they're the ones engaged in misuse of alcohol.
Right.
For the gender perspective, you have more males using than females, but we have seen over the years that gap is narrowing.
Hey.
So we can't say that females aren't using, they have reported using, so that gap is actually narrowing.
Right.
And also for the socio-economic stats, what we found was more lower income communities are engaged, and what we have found is that they are citing, you know, stress-related issues, you know, escape. So persons are looking for the escape, they can't cope, maybe some major issue or trauma-related circumstance that's happening with them, and so they turn to a substance, and usually that's alcohol.
Right.
From the mere fact too that it's not as costly as some of the other substances too.
Nowadays it's illegal.
Yes, and it's not illegal.
Right.
And it's easily accessible. We must
Very
also include
easily.
that.
Right.
Very easily accessible.
So it lacks sort of that social taboo also.
Absolutely.
So a lot of things going in alcohol's favor.
We don't look at alcohol as a bad thing in our culture. Right. Alcohol is in everything. And when we talk about Christmas time, you know, or sorry land in the cake, a party time, you know, no matter what it is.
Right.
You know, so we see alcohol, and when you see like maybe the ads sometimes and everybody having a good time, there's nothing bad about alcohol. But you know, what we don't tend to spend a lot of time on is the dark side about alcohol when it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
You know, when you have that family member know, where you're like, no, this has gone too far. We need help.
Yeah.
We need help.
Well, let's start going down that road. The NCDA is here to deal with these things, to look at the stats, to actually put forward policy. Am I on the right road here?
Well, we advocate absolutely for policies because, aside from, the challenge that we see societal, we have to look at, the future and our workforce and the healthcare system that we're also a part of, So it's more than one thing when it comes on to alcohol because it affects many different facets of our lives.
Right.
For our children, we have to ensure that, we have a future to provide for them. If we are not focused on ensuring that they don't end up with the right information so they can make the right choices for themselves, then we're certainly in trouble when it comes on to the future of this nation.
So on that note, I know the NCDA does support of individuals facing misuse challenges, but before we even get there, the NCDA wants to educate people.
Absolutely.
So I give you this moment. We've been talking about some pretty big cases of alcohol misuse, death on highways and that sort of stuff. But what are some red flags?
Yes.
Like give us that.
Okay, let me go back to something. So what the study also highlighted that there are some red flag parishes that we need to pay attention to. And I mentioned that before.
Parishes?
Yes.
Okay.
So Trelawney, St. Anne and Kingston actually had higher consumption rates than the national current use, which was at 46.2%. All those parishes had consumption rate at over 50%. And so our initiatives, when we get data like this and we sit with it to figure out what it is that we need to do in terms of our interventions. We have to look at specific programs now. We're talking about, let's go down into that section here now, programs. So we're in schools at all levels, whether it's at the primary level, the secondary level, or tertiary level, have programs within schools that speak to specifically how we educate our young persons about alcohol. They can recognize signs from early, because for young persons, they're usually in the experimentation phase.
Right.
So and they're usually there because they're curious. Nobody has ever said it to them, Mom, Daddy not talking to me about it, so what is it about, And I've seen my friends do it, so what is this really about? And so we have to ensure that we provide them with the correct information and help them to understand the dangers surrounding alcohol.
So NCDA is in the schools?
Absolutely. We're in all levels of schools talking. So when we're at the university level, though, as you know, at that age, because they are of the age that they can actually consume alcohol.
Yes.
And with the universities, they have their own fetes and whatever. So what we try to ensure that we focus on is lower risk drinking, because we know drinking is happening on the campuses. So we have to focus our initiatives on lower risk drinking. So it is that maybe we train up some ambassadors to be around, to be checking on these things, because what we found that our peer-led interventions do work. And so having them, young people talking to young persons. So having them in that type of capacity, building up their skills to be able to deal with what they see, because we can't be there all the time, of course.
Sure.
But if you have persons trained and in the space, they most certainly can make an impact as to what is happening on the ground in their own environment.
Oh, busy.
Absolutely.
Somebody's listening and they're like, okay, you've spoken of some red flags. We've hinted at dependence, we've hinted at escapism, we've hinted at overuse, right? Somebody is struggling with that. Does the NCDA provide any avenue for help?
Absolutely. We provide counseling support for persons and their families who are going through this kind of struggle. A lot of times we get calls from our helplines saying, I have a family member, they're drinking and they're not going to no work. So there are different levels to the dependency when it starts really going to a point where they really need help. So it may start very simple as probably I start missing work. Or it could start as, I keep drinking and I end up very intoxicated and maybe I have a fight with my partner.
Right.
But these things don't tend to just stop right there. They tend to escalate. And usually what we find is that when they have escalated is when we see the persons coming in. So we will implore persons, even when you see that family member starting at that point, have that conversation with them, because families are also the support unit involved, So we have to be very mindful, and we encourage families to support your family members when you see stuff like this happening, because maybe there's something else going on with them.
Right.
But nobody's there making themselves available to talk through maybe situations or problems that they could be having. So we always encourage that kind of family support. And then if it is that you are not able to handle situations, we are most certainly available to provide that kind of therapeutic support. Along with that, we will refer persons if it is that you are. Our services are what we call outpatient services.
Right.
So we don't have any rehab facilities, but we are most certainly in a network of all the rehabs, and we refer persons. If it is that when you come in and you do your assessment, it is found that you need more than what we have available.
Right.
Because we do offer counseling, but sometimes persons need more care.
More than counseling. Yeah. All right, thank you so much, Mrs. Bingham. You've given us the data. You've given us the parishes. That was something I learned very differently today. But also you've underlined how the NCDA is supporting the culture change in Jamaica and us understanding the dangers of alcohol misuse in Jamaica. This has been Get the Facts. As mentioned, our guest was Mrs. Denise Bingham, Senior Director, Prevention, Public Education and Awareness Services Section at the National Council on Drug Abuse. Thank you for watching. And until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Take care.